Take a closer look at the core leave management process. This illustration highlights some of the ways that Workforce Dimensions, absence management, can automate and optimize particular activities in a leave of absence process. A. In this step, leave requests can be automated so employees can enter requests online. B. Here, the system can automatically check the employee's days employed and hours worked against stored data. C. In this step, documents can be generated with employee-specific data. D. The software can populate time cards and schedules with appropriate codes based on configured rules. E. Here, the leave administrator can receive automatic notifications when employees exceed specified leave limits. F. In this step, if any changes are made to the case, leave and paid accrual balances are updated simultaneously. G. In this step, automatic reminders of return to work dates can be configured. The absence management solution is highly customizable. Customers have options concerning which process activities will be directly supported by features of the software. In addition, the system can be designed to work with specific policies and procedures. Every organization can have different processes for managing their employee leaves of absence. But let's walk through a typical leave of absence process. When organizations consider their process, they should consider what the procedural steps are and who performs each step. 1. The employee completes a leave of absence form and gives it to the leave administrator in the benefits office. 2. The leave administrator verifies that the employee is eligible for leave. 3. The leave administrator completes an approval or denial letter and forwards it to the employee. 4. The leave administrator reviews a schedule of benefits with the employee and then reports the results to the employee's manager. 5. The leave administrator documents the leave case in the leave of absence spreadsheet that is kept in the benefits office. 6. Each pay period, the manager enters any paid time off into the time card for the employee. And 7. When the employee is ready to return to work, he or she informs the manager and submits the return to work form to the leave administrator. During onboarding, organizations must think about their leave of absence processes. This screen lists the most typical leave of absence processes. The Kronos onboarding team will need to understand the details of each of these. At a minimum, organizations should be able to identify and describe these processes that they have in place for events and conditions. Timekeeping is a core tool within the Kronos Workforce Dimensions solution. It plays a key role in several workforce management processes and a secondary role in the absence management leave process. Organizations frequently onboard timekeeping before their absence management solution. These two tools work together to ensure that employees who take leave of absence time are paid appropriately according to an organization's leave of absence rules. The Kronos team works with customers to ensure that Workforce Dimensions absence management is designed to support their leave of absence process. The absence management solution can best support leave of absence management requirements when it is designed to align with a particular leave of absence process. Misalignment could lead to inefficient leave administration, non-compliance with federal or state regulations, user frustration, and case management that does not meet policies and requirements. For successful onboarding, The leave of absence process must be mutually understood by the Kronos team and an organization's project team. So it is essential to document the process and share it with the Kronos team. Leave administrators may be focused on leave case management activities, such as determining eligibility and documents, communicating with employees' physicians, and so on, rather than the recording of the pay aspects of the leave of absence. It is important to understand that they will now have some level of responsibility for ensuring that the codes on the time card are correct. The Kronos onboarding team may suggest ways to adjust the leave of absence process to take advantage of the efficiencies provided by absence management. Even though the process may change, it is important to capture the existing process so that any process changes or improvements support the current process. Here are some examples of procedural steps that organizations will need to document and considerations for each of those steps. Assessing leave of absence policies. This lesson provides a method for recognizing and calling attention to all of an organization's leave of absence policies, both documented and undocumented, so that they can be discussed effectively with the Kronos team. In the same way that the Kronos onboarding team needs to understand the leave of absence process, the team also needs to understand the policies that govern this process. Organizations might have policies concerning a variety of different aspects of leave management. Here are just a few examples of leave of absence policies. Various leave policies will trigger different events within the process. Let's look at the leave process graphic again, this time to identify places within the process that might be triggered by a specific policy in an organization. A. For this item, Receive Leave Request, the related policy might be, employees must notify their manager at least 3 days before their planned leave of absence. B. Manage Documents. For this one, the related policy might be, if the leave request is rejected, the employee must be notified in writing with the reason. C. Review Documentation. Here, the related policy might be, extending a medical leave requires a new medical certification form. D. Close leave case. One related policy might be, non-returning employees with exhausted leave eligibility might be terminated at the manager's discretion after all options have been exhausted related to reasonable accommodations for the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Kronos team will work to uncover the policies associated with each activity of the leave of absence process. Organizations follow many rules while administering leave of absence programs. Some of these rules are documented in official leave of absence policies. Other rules are unwritten rules that will be referred to here as leave of absence practices. A rule that may be a practice in one organization may be a policy elsewhere. For example, one organization may adjust the distribution of leave time individually for each employee, while another organization may use a standard approach for all employees. To ensure that an absence management solution best fits an organization's needs, it is important to convey leave of absence policies and practices to the Kronos onboarding team. But first, customers need to understand how to recognize their policies and practices. Take a quick moment to review and understand the differences between those two terms, leave of absence policy and leave of absence practice. Prior to the solution development workshop, the project team must gather any leave of absence policy documents and share them with the Kronos onboarding team These policy documents serve an important role as reference for accurately implementing the current policies. Some of the resources that might contain leave of absence policies include an employee handbook, union contracts, employee benefits documents, and any documents that describe leave administration processes. List leave of absence policy documents that you will need to gather for your organization. Accounting for the organization's undocumented leave of absence practices will be critical to achieve success during absence management onboarding. In most organizations, the written policies don't describe all of the rules that leave administrators follow to manage leave cases. Gathering leave of absence practice information helps to determine whether the leave of absence policies that an organization is onboarding accurately represent what actually happens at the organization. There are practices that should be added to the policies and/or communicated to employees prior to onboarding absence management. The project team should include a leave specialist who can represent all business units being included in the onboarding. Points to consider. Does that specialist know all of the leave of absence practices being followed, including those that relate to payroll and/or the interaction between employees and their managers? If not, identify any additional staff with this knowledge and ensure that they are available for consultation. Start to list individuals who can help identify leave of absence practices. Onboarding a new system, such as absence management, can be a good time to thoroughly analyze current leave of absence policies and practices and determine any necessary changes. For example, identify any rules that are applied inconsistently across different departments. The capabilities of absence management might let organizations automate rules that they were not able to effectively manage before. Or an organization might decide, based on the findings, that they want to formalize leave of absence practices or update existing leave policies. Note that these changes will need to occur prior to finalizing the design strategy for absence management. In most organizations, changes to leave of absence policies and practices must go through a specific approval process. This approval process might be informal for smaller changes or more formal and structured for larger ones. Depending on the extent of the change, the list of decision makers needed to approve and implement the change might include department managers and supervisors, human resources administrators, union representatives, labor relations staff, legal department staff, or executive committee members. Organizations should consider who would need to be involved if leave of absence policies or practices need to be standardized or modified. Some organizations have different groups of employees or separate business units that have different leave of absence policies that apply to them. To give a complete description of their organization's leave policies, the project team needs to describe the policies as they apply to each group that has different policies from another group. In the Kronos software, organizations will have a separate leave policy group for each group of employees that share a total unique set of leave of absence policies and practices. Note that two leave policy groups might share a common policy for one kind of leave of absence, but not for another. In the graphic shown, Division A and Division B are considered separate leave policy groups because they have distinct education leave of absence policies regardless of their other common policies. As part of the leave of absence policies and practices evaluation, the project team needs to identify where separate policies and practices apply to different leave policy groups. They might even uncover new groups as they review how the policies for different kinds of leave separate members of a common group that share other leave policies. Consider what you know about your leave of absence policies and how they apply differently to different groups of employees. Begin a list of possible leave policy groups for your organization. Leave tools in the Kronos solution. This lesson introduces the key absence management tools that organizations use as they onboard their leave of absence process with the application. The first thing that users see when they log into the system is the interface assigned to them. Users may see different default tiles and menu options depending on their role and the organization's preferences, and may look different from the ones shown in the screenshots in this course. Leave administrators use a typical home page, shown here. Alerts and notifications are automated messages that can be sent to managers and employees to let them know of situations that require their attention. Alerts are sent to the Control Center tile. Notifications can be ranked according to priorities that are used to route them to their destinations. Some examples of alerts and notifications include employee leave request. When employees submit leave case requests, the leave administrator is alerted of the pending requests. Documents overdue. When employees' physician certification documents are not returned by a deadline, leave administrators can be alerted that the due date for the documents has passed. Employee approaching leave hours limit. When employees on leave are nearing the end of their allocated leave hours, leave administrators might want to be alerted that the employees are running out of leave hours. Employee approaching leave frequency or duration limit. When employees on intermittent leave are absent for more episodes or episodes of longer duration than the doctor has specified, the leave administrator can be alerted to request that the employee submit an updated medical certification form. The Leave module tracks time that employees take through company leave of absence policies. These policies might cover federal or state leave laws or workers' compensation. Leave administrators use the Leave of Absence page to easily view and take actions on the leave cases they manage. From here, they can access the leave case details, leave case editor, schedules, time cards, and people editor details for specific employees. The Leave of Absence Case Editor is the workspace where leave administrators view and maintain the specific details of the leave case. Some use cases for this workspace are as follows. When employees submit leave of absence requests, only the basic required information is completed. The leave administrator will need to enter the additional case details, which he or she would do in the Leave of Absence Case Editor. Also, sometimes, circumstances of an employee's leave of absence change, such as needing to extend the leave or moving the leave start date earlier, such as for a rescheduled surgery. The Leave of Absence Case Editor is also the workspace from which leave administrators can add or delete leave time and access the leave calendar and the takings list. The Leave of Absence Case Editor is the workspace where leave administrators view and maintain the specific details of the leave case. Some use cases for this workspace are as follows. When employees submit leave of absence requests, only the basic required information is completed. The leave administrator will need to enter the additional case details, which he or she would do in the Leave of Absence Case Editor. Also, sometimes, circumstances of an employee's leave of absence change, such as needing to extend the leave or moving the leave start date earlier, such as for a rescheduled surgery. The Leave of Absence Case Editor is also the workspace from which leave administrators can add or delete leave time and access the leave calendar and the takings list. What sorts of official status and informational communications happen between an organization and an employee before, during, and after a leave of absence? These communication documents are important components of leave case management. Such communications may come in any and all of these forms: verbal, conversations between the employee, the manager, and/or the leave case administrator; formal documents or letters; email or text messages, perhaps the instructions that are provided to managers or employees to handle the leave process, or an employee providing an urgent status update to his or her manager when leave needs to start earlier or end later than expected. Each type of communication typically has a defined role within the leave process. Workforce Dimensions supports leave communications in several ways, particularly for written leave documents. To design the system to meet an organization's needs, the Kronos team needs to review soft copies of all leave documents the software should generate, such as leave request forms, approval and denial letters, medical certification, and rights and responsibilities documents. Begin a list of documents related to leave of absence that you will need to gather and provide to the Kronos onboarding team. In addition to formal written documents, are there verbal discussions or informal written communications such as email messages used for any part of your leave process? Let's talk about the many ways organizations might classify types of leave. There are many different ways to describe the kinds of leave that an employee can take. In fact, many different descriptions might apply to a single leave of absence. This illustration shows some of the many different ways and levels at which leave and leave time can be classified. The dates in the illustration represent a period of time during which the employee may take leave of absence on an intermittent basis. The system tracks two levels of hierarchical classification for each leave case. Leave category, which is the overarching classification based on the type of leave, for example, self, family, military, or personal. Leave reason, which dictates the documents that will be part of the case and how the employee's leave will be paid or tracked. Each leave case will have a single leave category and a single leave reason associated with it. The leave category and reason typically refer to the nature of the leave of absence. The project team works with the Kronos onboarding team to define their leave categories and reasons. Here are the classifications that Kronos recommends and that most organizations use. For each leave case, the project team needs to classify the way that time during a leave of absence counts against banks of paid and unpaid leave time. For example, an employee might have 120 hours of paid sick and 480 hours of FMLA unpaid tracking time. This third classification of time is handled through leave types in the system. Paid leave types designate whether or not the employee is being paid and what types of pay apply. Unpaid, known as tracking leave types, indicate the federal, state, or company program that apply concurrently with paid leave types. Note that paid and unpaid or tracking leave types run concurrently. Unpaid leave types are not an indicator of whether the employee is actually being paid during his or her leave of absence. Think of unpaid leave types as tracking types. they track the federal and/or state programs to which the leave time applies. The paid leave types are generated concurrently with the tracking leave types and designate the employee's pay status. Leave case and leave tools. Leave case initiation. This lesson reviews how to analyze and gather data related to your policies and processes for employees requesting leave. Leaves of absence can be planned or unplanned. The Kronos onboarding team will need to understand the process the organization uses to initiate both types of leave cases. Here are some key questions that need to be answered about planned leave. How does an employee request leave? Who primarily receives the leave request? Is anyone else on the distribution list for the leave request? Employees cannot always provide advance notice of a leave of absence, for example, for medical leave as the result of an injury. The Kronos team will need to understand how the process works differently in these instances. It is important to be able to answer these key questions about unplanned leave. Under what circumstances would the organization open a leave case without a request coming in first from the employee? How long can an employee be out of the workplace before he or she is evaluated as a possible leave case? Another question for both types of leave that must be considered. Is there a third-party leave processor that will continue to be involved in the leave case? Workforce Dimensions offers an optional feature that gives employees a variety of self-service capabilities, such as the ability to request time off or to work a particular shift. With absence management, an employee will be able to perform the leave of absence tasks shown here using employee self-service. If the organization uses employee self-service, employees can submit leave requests from their calendar in the system. After employees submit a leave case request, details of the request appear in their calendar. For onboarding, consider how the organization currently handles employees' leave of absence requests. Is the organization managing planned and unplanned leave requests differently? Who receives the requests? Who processes the requests? After an employee submits a request, a notification can be sent to the leave administrator's control center. It's important to note that leave requests only go to the leave administrator. They do not go to the employee's manager. Organizations which use employee self-service to submit leave of absence requests will need to consider how leave case requests are routed to leave administrators. Is there more than one leave administrator? And is each leave administrator responsible for a specific employee population? Should requests be routed to a group mailbox, allowing each administrator to field requests from a common pool? Once an employee files a leave request, the request is routed to the leave administrator. It is available on the Leave of Absence page with the case status of Submitted. To review the case and begin processing it, the leave administrator can access the leave case and begin to review and process the case with the leave case editor. The first section of the leave case editor is automatically populated with information from the employee's request. The leave administrator would then edit the case and complete the remainder of the information. While leave of absence cases can be submitted by employees, leave administrators can also open new cases for employees from the Leave of Absence page. When leave administrators open a new case, the leave case editor is activated, which provides the necessary fields that need to be documented. Some points to consider. Regarding this first item, how many leave administrators receive employee leave requests, consider this. If employee self-service is used, how will leave case requests be routed to leave administrators? Is each leave administrator responsible for a specific employee population, or should requests be routed to a group email box to allow each administrator to field requests from a common pool? An additional consideration regarding the fifth item, how will changing the employee's status impact the employee's pay, health benefits, and so on? Consider what the employees in the organization must do to qualify for leave of absence. They likely must meet certain qualifying conditions to be eligible for certain types of leave. Some questions to consider are shown on this screen. These qualifying conditions might relate to the employee's work status, or the requirements might be more procedural. For example, the employee must complete the leave request form accurately to be approved for leave. The Kronos onboarding team will need to understand the specifics of how employees in the organization qualify for leave. The organization's leave policies might not grant all types of leave to every employee under all circumstances. There are multiple ways to control who can be granted different types of leave within absence management, including those listed here. Some points to consider. Decision 1. What kinds of leave does the organization grant that are based on specific eligibility requirements? Considerations. Is it possible to define each of those eligibility requirements, such as length of service, hours worked, and so on? Are there occasions where the organization is more generous than required by policy or government statutes? Decision 2. How should the absence be recorded while the employee's leave case is pending? Considerations. If the leave of absence has already begun, and because most organizations indicate that greater than 95% of leave requests are ultimately approved, Kronos recommends beginning to post the leave time as if it has already been approved. This minimizes the need to perform retroactive time card corrections later when the leave approval process has been completed. Decision 3. Will employees who work varying schedules be eligible for leave? Considerations. If the organization plans to define eligibility requirements for employees who work varying schedules, be sure to consult with a Kronos representative about requirements and business processes. The system can be designed to manage access to leave according to the eligibility requirements defined by the organization. The system can check certain types of eligibility requirements against data that is in the system, such as number of days employed, number of days as an active employee, number of hours worked in a particular time period. In each case, the organization can specify a particular number of days or hours required for eligibility. Other types of eligibility criteria need to be phrased as yes or no questions that can be answered by the leave case administrator when the leave case is opened. For example, does the employee work in a site with 50 or more employees? Or does the employee purchase the optional short-term disability benefit? When checking leave eligibility for each case, any eligibility requirements concerning employed or active days or hours worked will be evaluated automatically against data in the system. All other eligibility questions are handled manually by a leave administrator or can be included on the leave of absence request form that an employee submits. The Kronos onboarding team might choose to use these eligibility questions in other ways beyond the determination of eligibility for kinds of leave. For example, if the current policy lets employees use vacation time during a leave of absence, it might make sense to create an eligibility question that asks whether the employee wants to use vacation during the leave. How that question is answered will determine whether the vacation leave type is made available for that employee's leave case. Some points to consider. Using eligibility questions in absence management is useful to avoid accidentally providing types of leave to employees who are not eligible. The downside to using eligibility questions is that they must be answered every time a leave case is opened. The organization may find that certain eligibility requirements do not need to be enforced through eligibility questions in absence management because leave administrators would never mistakenly allow the leave to someone who does not meet the particular requirement. Employees in the organization might provide physician forms that detail frequency and duration data for intermittent leave. Organizations need a way to track this type of certification information to know when to request recertification and to curb possible intermittent leave abuse. In Workforce Dimensions, within an employee's leave case, there is a workspace that helps organizations track and enter leave frequency and duration information for medical certifications to support intermittent leave cases. This allows leave administrators to associate data on physician forms with employees' leave cases. To aid in the tracking of employees who are out on leave, reminders can be generated and sent to managers and leave administrators. This allows for leave administrators to be notified when employees are approaching and/or have exceeded the allowable number or duration of intermittent episodes, or when the employee certification is about to expire. It also allows leave administrators to set up their own notifications. Notifications and alerts can also be used to track physician form-related time periods and deadlines. Limit-driven and date-driven notifications are used for tracking physician form data. Limit-based notifications allow managers and leave administrators to be notified when a limit for an employee's physician certification is approaching or has passed the configured limit. Date-based notifications allow managers and leave administrators to be notified on specified dates. Notifications can also be either system-generated or user-defined. The system can be designed to provide standardized limit-driven and date-driven notification messages that are automatically sent to designated recipients, depending on the specifics of a leave case. Managers and leave administrators can also, on a case-by-case basis, manually set up notifications for themselves as needed. Leave administrators can set up their own date-based notifications as reminders to themselves, such as a notification to check on an employee in 1 week for documentation. Organizations can think of these kinds of ad hoc date-based notifications as reminders that managers make for themselves. Some points to consider. If the organization wants to track that information in a leave case, does the organization want the ability for the system to notify the leave administrator when the employee is approaching or has exceeded the number or length of intermittent episodes specified on the medical form? If so, consider about when the organization might want the leave administrator to be notified. For example, how far in advance should the leave administrator receive a notification that the employee is approaching a limit? The system can help automate the tracking of the organization's leave status communications. For leave documents, absence management can also assist with the creation and distribution of those documents. The Kronos onboarding team will need to understand what information is required to evaluate the leave case for acceptance or denial, including the types of required documentation. Document status reminders can be generated and sent to managers and leave administrators. Many of an organization's leave documents might be form letters. For example, the letter used to inform employees their leave is approved. These might be the same from case to case, with only certain case-specific details being altered in each letter, such as the employee's name and the leave start date. The system supports this form letter approach by letting an organization upload form letters as document templates with data tags that represent the data that changes from case to case, such as the employee's name or the kind of leave taken. When the system generates a document for a particular leave case, the data tags are replaced with the specific data for that leave case. The system supports this form letter approach by letting an organization upload form letters as document templates with data tags that represent the data that changes from case to case, such as the employee's name or the kind of leave taken. When the system generates a document for a particular leave case, the data tags are replaced with the specific data for that leave case. The system can generate leave-related documents for communicating with employees and managers. Leave administrators can forward the documents from the employee's leave of absence case as an email attachment. Absence management generates documents that can be viewed in Microsoft Word and can be richly formatted as shown here. The Kronos onboarding team will work with the organization to determine the document statuses required. Here are the statuses that Kronos recommends and which are used by most organizations. In addition to document statuses that indicate progress, pending, sent, and so on, the organization may want to use document statuses to indicate whether the document was sent in the mail versus email. that can be viewed in Microsoft Word and can be richly formatted as shown here. The Kronos onboarding team will work with the organization to determine the document statuses required. Begin recording some thoughts on how well the recommended document statuses work for your organization. Review the points to consider listed around leave of absence communications. Leave duration takings and grants. This lesson reviews how to analyze and gather leave processes and policies that are related to the way leave grants and balances are tracked. One major concern when administering leave of absence benefits is tracking the amount of leave taken so that employees do not exceed the duration allowed by an organization's policies. In the organization, are employees allowed to use time from various types of paid and unpaid time off when they go out on a leave of absence? For example, do they have buckets of time allotted to vacation, sick, and personal time? If so, the organization needs to track the balances in each type of leave to ensure that employees don't exceed the durations allowed by the policies. The total amount of remaining time an employee can take of a particular kind of leave without incurring consequences according to the organization's leave policies is known in the software as a leave balance. This illustration shows a sample leave balance for personal leave time. At the beginning of a set period of time, the employee is granted 80 hours of personal time. The balance is decremented each time the employee uses personal time. So, after using 25 hours and then 15 hours, the employee's leave balance is 40 hours. For some types of leave, the organization might have a formula for calculating the amount of leave time granted to each employee. The Kronos system can perform calculations to help ensure that employees with varying schedules are allotted the right number of leave hours based on their work schedule. Consider this scenario. We have 3 employees who work at the same organization. Jorge works a 40-hour week, Janice works a 32-hour week, and Heinrich works 20 hours a week. Based on their work weeks, Jorge is entitled to 480 hours of leave over 12 weeks, while Janice is entitled to 384 hours over the same period, and Heinrich is eligible for 240 hours. But if Heinrich were to accept a new position with a 40-hour work week, the system would automatically adjust his leave balance to reflect the number of hours he is entitled to based on that new schedule. Leave of absence policies typically grant employees an amount of leave within a certain time frame. When an employee takes leave time, the amount of remaining leave time available to the employee is reduced. When the time frame specified by the leave policy is passed, the time previously taken is restored to the balance. For example, your organization may provide 480 hours of leave within any year-long period, also called a rolling year period. In this case, each taking of leave time is restored to the balance on the anniversary of its being taken. A similar option would be to restore all time taken for an entire leave of absence at the 1-year anniversary of that leave's start date. For most types of leaves of absence, an organization grants a total amount of time to be used over a particular period of time. When that period of time has passed, the employee is again allowed to take the leave time again. This is called restoring the grant. Will the organization have rules that govern when the balances are replenished? It will be important to share details about how and when grants are restored with the Kronos consultant. Let's look at an example. As seen in the Concepts in Action movie prior to this lesson, if employees are allowed 480 hours of FMLA, an organization can choose from different options as their method of restoring the FMLA balance to their employees. Restore each individual taking, known as backwards rolling year, where each individual taking is returned to the balance 1 year from the anniversary of that individual taking, or restore takings on the anniversary from the start, known as a forward rolling year, where all takings during that 12-month period are returned to the balance on the anniversary of the first taking. For onboarding, what types of employee leave need to be tracked as balances in the organization? Begin a list of leave balances and summarize the policies that govern them. Absence management tracks leave of absence balances. All types of leaves of absence require accrual balances. There will be some leaves of absence where the length of the leave is controlled by the end date that the leave administrator enters into the leave case rather than by a specific accrual balance. For example, an organization permits employees to take continuous personal leaves of absence for extenuating circumstances. These leaves are typically approved for a maximum of 30 days, but might be extended if the situation warrants. Rather than create an accrual specifically to track 30-day increments, the leave administrator controls the length of the leave by entering an end date in the case that is not more than 30 days from the start date of the leave. This illustration shows how the system determines the types of leave that are used in a leave of absence, and this in turn generates pay codes that can be applied to the employee time card. These pay codes deduct time from the leave balances. Absence management uses accruals functionality, also known as calculated accruals, to manage the initial grant of leave time to an employee and the restoration of past leave takings. If the organization is using the accruals module with leave of absence, then accruals will manage the initial grant and restorations to the balance. Even if the organization does not choose to onboard accruals to manage paid time off accruals, The Kronos onboarding team will use it to create the grants and restorations of unpaid leave of absence tracking balances, such as FMLA and state leave balances. Note that an accruals entitlement comes with each of the 3 absence management packages that are available. In most organizations, the employees accrue different types of paid leave time over specific periods of time. Think of an accrual as a benefit granted as paid time off, with a balance that must be tracked for individual employees to enforce organizational policies. Typical accruals might include vacation, paid sick, paid personal, PTO or paid time off, or compensatory comp time. As it was explained earlier, leave balances can be expressed only in hours. By contrast, accruals can be configured as hours, days, or monetary amounts. Only those accruals established as hours can be used by a leave of absence case. In most organizations, the employees accrue different types of paid leave time over specific periods of time. Think of an accrual as a benefit granted as paid time off, with a balance that must be tracked for individual employees to enforce organizational policies. Typical accruals might include vacation, paid sick, paid personal, PTO or paid time off, or compensatory comp time. As it was explained earlier, leave balances can be expressed only in hours. By contrast, accruals can be configured as hours, days, or monetary amounts. Only those accruals established as hours can be used by a leave of absence case. If accruals are used during certain types of leave, the organization might have policies governing how the accruals might or might not be used. Some questions to consider include those shown here. Does the organization's leave of absence policy specify the sequence of leave types that the employee must use for a leave of absence? For example, does the policy state something like, employees must exhaust sick time first, and then vacation time, and then personal time in that order? In the Leave module, the rules that specify how paid and unpaid time are allotted for a given leave type are called leave rules. The recommended practice is that the order of paid accruals, or amounts taken for a given leave type, might be a guideline rather than a fixed rule. For example, the organization might typically require employees to use all of their sick time as part of a medical leave, but allow exceptions in certain circumstances. In this case, the Kronos onboarding team might recommend setting up the leave rule to automatically use all sick time, but discuss a process for overriding that rule when necessary. When having discussions about leave rules with the Kronos team, be sure to indicate whether each rule is fixed or just a guideline. Points to consider. When designing the absence management solution, the Kronos team needs to understand whether or not the leave administrator needs flexibility to tailor the schedule of benefits for the employee. Are the organization's employees allowed to choose the type of pay to use to fund their leaves of absence? If so, does that choice need to be established before employees go on leave of absence, or can employees change their minds while on leave? You may already be familiar with pay codes, but if not, a pay code in Workforce Dimensions is a category of time or money that organizations use to track, pay, or report on employees' time. To cleanly separate responsibility for managing and tracking leave-related time on the time card from other time card management responsibilities, it is important to have separate leave-specific pay codes that can be tracked separately, restricted for use by only those leave administrators or managers who should use them, used to differentiate between a leave of absence and an occasional absence that might otherwise be counted as an attendance infraction in the organization's discipline policy. The Kronos onboarding team might recommend that leave-specific pay codes be implemented for leave types. This will likely mean new pay codes for tracking time, for example, LV military tracking. Separate pay codes for the types of paid time that already have a pay code, for example, LV vacation. It is important to provide the Kronos onboarding team with a list of the pay codes to be configured for onboarding. During the solution development workshop, the list will be reviewed with the Kronos team and determine which new leave-specific pay codes will be required. Part of leave case management involves sending the employee's leave time to their time card or schedule. This process adds the leave time to the time card or schedule in the form of pay code edits. There are some rules of thumb to consider. Generally, it's preferable to send leave hours in the future to employees' schedules. This allows department managers to plan for additional staff needs to replace workers who are on leave. If you have employees who have been on leave of absence for a few days and you are now opening a leave case for them, you may want to send the initial leave hours to the time card. Doing this lets you sign off on a pay period that needs to close and that includes those hours while allowing you to finalize the leave case. Your Kronos onboarding team will help you decide which option is appropriate for your organization. Send leave time to the time card, schedule, or a combination. One of the key questions regarding how to use absence management is whether the employee's regular time card manager or the leave administrator will be responsible for maintaining time card information while the employee is on leave. The organization might choose to have the leave administrator manage time card information for employees on continuous leave, but to transition that responsibility to the employee's manager if the employee moves to intermittent leave. It is possible to also allow both leave administrators and department managers to add leave time to the employee's time card or schedule. This is especially useful for allowing managers to manage intermittent leave time with the employee. For onboarding, consider the following. Who does the organization anticipate will be responsible for the time card information for employees on leave? Will some of the responsibilities for this role be new? Onboarding decisions for on-leave management. First, if employees have options for how they may use paid accrual benefit time during a leave of absence, when is the decision made? Second, who will send leave time with absence manager? Third, what process considerations exist for adjusting leave-related data after payroll has closed for a pay period? Leave cases might need adjustments for a variety of reasons or circumstances, including the leave administrator found out about a leave of absence after it had already begun. An employee went out on leave earlier than originally planned, or an employee returned to work earlier than expected. The Kronos onboarding team needs to understand the organization's process for changing an existing leave case. Some of the key questions which will need to be answered are shown here. A recommended practice is when an employee transitions from a continuous leave of absence to intermittent leave, It's best to close the continuous leave case and open a new intermittent leave case for that employee. Some of the key questions which will need to be answered on the subject of closing a leave case are listed here. Absence management can generate reminders of important upcoming leave case dates, such as the expected end date of the leave. These reminders can be sent to the manager's or the leave administrator's email account or other inbox. Points to consider. Should a reminder be sent to the leave administrator before a leave of absence is expected to end? Many organizations find this useful, while others might not need the reminders. For example, if the leave administrator refers to the leave tile on a daily basis, reminders might be unnecessary as this page automatically displays leave end dates and flags overdue documents. Reminders generated by absence management are tied to the due dates of leave-related documents managed in the system. Congratulations! You have successfully completed this tutorial. Thank you for attending this course. The knowledge and practice you've gained will help you prepare to collaborate with the Kronos team for a successful Workforce Dimensions absence management onboarding experience. You should now be able to describe key leave of absence concepts in order to participate effectively in further discussions with the Kronos onboarding team, and analyze and identify the leave of absence process and policy information that an organization must share with Kronos before onboarding. Throughout this course, you have been learning about the tasks and decisions that an organization's project team are responsible for prior to the Solution Development Readiness Call.